The first day, 1st of January 71, the big chief from Enza Apple and Beer Board those days, he took me for a ride and we followed a caravan in Stoke and he blew over in front of us on his side, so it was an extremely windy day. That was the first impression of New Zealand.
I grew up in Southland, in Balfour, in northern Southland, and I went to school and studied in Dunedin, and I came to Nelson to teach at Nayland College in 1969. So I'm almost a Nelsonian after all these years.
We were the first in the South Island to plant the grapes commercially.
We prepared the land and we bought cuttings and grafted the plants. Yeah, it took a year or two to get going. 74 we planted them into that first 5-acre vineyard, and in 76 we made the first wines.
I remember as a very young child having a couch in the back of the winery. I'm the oldest of the three of us, so my brother and I, who are very close in age, would top and tail and have a little kip in the afternoon out the back of the winery. Our mum and dad would, tinker away doing what they were doing.
We always used to help mum and dad in the vineyard as much as we were, possibly more of a hindrance than a help, I guess. In the winery, doing little jobs, helping on the bottling line, stacking the bottles on, everything was done by hand. And then as we got older, we were doing pruning, helping with the pruning. I started driving tractors when I was probably, 10 or 11, and just sort of grew from there.
So for us, probably getting under their feet for the first 10 years until we were big enough to actually help. It's a job, but it's also kind of a way of life for us, so it's just, it was what we did.
We picked the first grapes in 1976 and sold from the cellar door here from, I think, Labour weekend, and we'd sold out basically by January, February of the following year. It's amazing to think how it's grown and developed and the opportunities. It's all just changed so much.
A lot of people around Nelson and overseas have very interesting stories of meeting mum and dad in the early 80s or late 70s, and just hearing stories about what they did in the early days. I was a child, so I don't remember them or didn't sort of notice it. We just grew up on the vineyard and it was just something that happened, but everybody, tells me how remarkable it was, and looking back now, it was amazing, and they had some real foresight and some real energy as well. That is pretty special.
And to think when mum and dad started, there was no modern commercial wine grape production in the South Island of New Zealand. So mum and dad were told, it will fail, you're crazy, you're mad. Go to the North Island, go to Hawke's Bay, where grapes were a proven crop, you could ripen them.
But the kids decided, it's worthwhile carrying on. We didn't force anybody to come home. We all of them had the option. You can sell a winery, you can sell a business, you can sell whatever you build up.
It's wonderful to have them all here. We're so lucky, and especially now that they've got kids, we've got some grandkids, and to have the kids with us as well is, it's a dream come true.
So everybody has their own field. We're all working towards the same target, to have happy staff, make a pretty good product, bring it to the market at a rate where you get a consumer, we're not flying so high that you can't reach us.
Passion for wine is something that I think was probably kind of almost born into the three of us when you're brought up with wine or the vineyard constantly around you and constantly being talked about.
Technology is a big thing, and just research. We're changing the way that we do things, buying new machinery, new equipment. Technology, like everywhere in life, technology is improving. So, you've got machines that weren't available 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. We're continuing to evolve with, changing consumer taste, what the consumer looks for in a label. The supermarket shelf in particular is a very crowded marketplace. You've got to have a label that's prominent. I don't want to say stands out, but it needs to be easily identifiable.
To grow your own grapes, to produce all your own wine and then to bottle it, and then we see that right through to the market. So that is quite unique, and to be a truly family-owned, family-run business involved in all of those aspects really is a rarity these days.
We're making some pretty good wine, so I hope that we can continue to improve on that. We're learning all the time, you never stop learning, and We're constantly picking up new ideas.
Now, I'm a parent now, 3 young children, and you do realise how fast those years go. And 40th vintage, we had our harvest this year, and it's really incredible.
Well, I think it's an amazing achievement. Certainly Mum and Dad have done a lot of work over those 40 years to start with nothing, and there were a lot of people that said, Nelson can't grow grapes, it's too cool, it's not the right climate. I think we've done pretty well and continue to do well, so it's the children's job to continue to grow the business.
Legacy is something that we don't really, well, I certainly don't think about all that much. Day to day, we do the best we can. We make wines that we love and that we hope our consumers will love. We're putting our name on the label. We need to stand behind it 100%.
We're optimistic about the future, and I guess you do think, well, 40 years now, where will we be in 10 years, 20 years, next 40 years?
I don't know where it'll go. Who knows? 40 years ago, I would never have dreamed that we're where we are now.
But hopefully it will be here for many years to come, maybe for generations to come. I just enjoy it, and I still do. Otherwise I wouldn't be out in the vineyard, would I?